Here in Germany, Parliament is preparing to debate the crucial next steps in its military support for Ukraine after nearly 2 years of war, a conflict that has completely reshaped its own security policy. Long-range missiles for Kyiv is one of the specific topics up for discussion today, and after billions have been pumped into defense spending already, many see this as a watershed moment for how Germany's armed forces will look for decades to come.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and his defence minister putting their elbows into it. Here, breaking the ground on a new ammunition plant earlier this month. The Rheinmetall factory will eventually churn out 200,000 artillery shells per year, underlining efforts to ramp up production.
We need this urgently, because as hard as this reality is, we are not living in peaceful times.
Germany has been on a journey. Before Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion, Berlin's focus was on peace, offering Kyiv little more than headgear.
We will send 5,000 helmets as a clear message that we stand by their side.
Since then, they've sent battle tanks, howitzers, Irish-T defence systems and more. And now the debate is whether it will also send some of its powerful Taurus cruise missiles. Russia's attack on Ukraine was a watershed moment, and it's forced Germans to confront some hard truths.
This means the same for the Bundeswehr as it does for German society. We must become fit for war.
The government has coughed up an extra €100 billion to bring the Bundeswehr back to life. Orders are in for new US-built fighter jets, 60 combat helicopters, and a full air defence system fit to guard the skies of Europe. Defence spending is growing again. At the height of the Cold War, West Germans spent up to 5% of GDP on security. That decreased gradually until reunification in the early 90s, when it fell off a cliff. Now it's at that 2% NATO target. And this week, the defence minister signalled there was room to grow.
With the development of our industry, what I mentioned too, that all has to fit together, and then we might reach 3% or maybe even 3.5%. It depends what's happening in the world.
And as Germany builds its production capacity and bolsters its military, the question now is whether taxpayers are willing to foot the bill.
And earlier, I spoke with Thomas Wiegold, a journalist and expert on security and defense policy. I asked him about Germany's Taurus cruise missile and why Germany is so hesitant to deliver it to Ukraine.
Well, it's a question whether you can say Germany is so hesitant. The Chancellor is so reluctant to send the Taurus, while his coalition and members of the different coalition parties urgently press to deliver those. The fear behind this is that Taurus, as a long-range weapon system, might reach areas in Russia proper, and that's something the Chancellor urgently wants to avoid.
Yeah, but then how does that differ to, say, for example, the Storm Shadow cruise missile that the UK delivered to Ukraine, that Ukraine used very effectively? That's also a cruise missile.
That's right. The systems are pretty similar, but still different. Taurus has a much longer range and is much more resistant against GPS jamming and spoofing. So the chance for the Ukrainians with a Taurus to reach strategically significant goals, like destroying the Kerch Bridge, might be much higher with this German weapon.
So you say that it's actually the Chancellor and not so much as his coalition partners who is hesitant to deliver this missile to the Ukrainians. At the same time, the same Chancellor keeps repeating that Germany will back Ukraine for as long as it takes. Is there a contradiction there between these two positions?
Yes, you can see a contradiction there. Also have this contradiction in the wording of what is on debate in the Bundestag this afternoon, there is a motion by the coalition which says Germany should deliver additional long-range weapon systems without naming it. And if you look at what Germany could deliver, the only long-range weapon system is a Taurus. So there remains this contradiction, and this is a carefully wording which is not to damage the chancellor, but still leaving open the chance to deliver those cruise missiles.
Now, Ukraine's counteroffensive against Russia hasn't really gone to plan. Does Ukraine, you think, need to show some progress on the battlefield if it wants to continue relying on German support?
Well, actually, it should be the other way around. Ukraine needs German and European support, much more ammunition to achieve those goals on the battlefield. So you can't say Ukraine has to deliver first, then it will get ammunition. It's just the other way around.
Tell me what this means, this war means for Germany itself. I mean, Germany has announced an increase in defense spending. More could potentially be coming. What does this mean for German defense and strategic policy?
Well, Germany is in the midst of a shift from international crisis management for its armed forces, think Afghanistan, think Mali, Western Africa, to defense of the country and mostly defense of the NATO territory. So this is a process which is ongoing, which will take some time, but it's in a way going back to the roots, what the German army was founded for after the Second World War.
And we'll leave it there for the time being. But thanks so much for joining us today, journalist Thomas Biegold. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.